Welcome back to the All Ball Podcast, where it is all ball all the time. You are here with your hosts, Sean and Isaiah. This is episode number 67, and today we're going to be giving our early predictions for all the awards except coaching, and then we're going to give a couple of picks on who we believe might be first-time All-Stars. But before that, as always, Isaiah, how are you feeling today?
Man, I am exhausted. I had a very busy weekend, but I'm still excited to get into the podcast. So let's go ahead and get started with whatever you want to start with.
All right, well, I guess we can go ahead and get the big award out of the way, and that's going to be MVP. So go ahead and give your prediction of who you think is going to win MVP this year.
Now, I feel like even though it's an extremely close race right now between two players, I feel like the pick is still obvious, and that's going to have to be Giannis. I mean, when you look at what the Bucks did, almost having a 10-0 start to the season, then on top of that, Giannis was by far one of the best players in the league. Probably, really, you could say he's the best considering what he's doing on both ends of the floor. And you know, he's like the way he leads that team without his second best player there. It's absolutely MVP level play. So even though Luka is very close, I think my pick is still Giannis because of team success.
Yeah, I have to go Giannis too. I think you hit it straight on when you said he's leading this team even without his second best player. Although Drew Holiday has stepped up quite a bit. Outside of that, there's not too much spectacular talent on that team. I mean, Bobby Portis is pretty good, but
Hey man, not gonna lie, Brook Lopez has kind of been hooping.
he's been pretty good this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
But
he's been surprisingly good on the offensive end to start this year off too. Like,
efficient, very efficient.
yeah, like this is scary to see. Like, hold on, man, aren't you like in your mid to late 30s, bro? why are you having an offensive boom now?
Robin looking at him like, man, why can't I have done that? Yeah, I think this is a like you said, other than Luka and maybe even like Tatum, I think could be in the race somewhere. I think Giannis is pretty much the clear cut favorite here.
And you know what? I think Donovan Mitchell should get some credit in the race too, because he's been really great for the Cavs.
I think there's some other guys out there like Devin Booker had a pretty good start to the season. I mean, there's some other guys.
I think if Dame didn't get injured, he'd probably be in there too.
Right. Yeah, there's some other guys out there, but I think like Giannis is at least a full tier ahead of all the other guys out there.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, so that's a pretty obvious one, and I think this is gonna be a pretty obvious one too, and that's gonna be Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah. Oh man, it kind of makes me sad, but yeah. Paolo Banchero, he is by far the Rookie of the Year. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's not, and this is an award that I really wanted my team to win in the Rockets. Whether it was Jabari or even, I could see Tari Eason. Well, I could see it when he was playing, in the preseason.
Yeah, preseason Tari would have been in the running, but now that the regular season has started, he's pretty much completely eliminated himself from that race.
Yeah, watching the game, what was it, yesterday versus the Pelicans, watching him get a steal and try to run a fast break by himself and almost throw it off the top of the backboard trying to lay the ball up is like kind of summed up his whole scoring and in a way for the season.
And I just want to say that, like, that right there, that's the kind of things that I'm talking about. How, like, why is he missing so many layups? This is concerning now.
It is pretty concerning. It's like he's like trying to throw a 10-pound ball and he's hitting like too hard off the glass. I don't know. It's weird because the way he was finishing in preseason was strong but controlled, but now it's to the point where he looks like he's like Dwight Howard, like on roids, and just trying to. I don't know.
It's like he's channeling his inner Wilt Chamberlain every time he goes for a layup.
He looks off, but I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, he's looked great. Offense definitely needs some work. I mean, although that's exactly what we expected from him coming out of the draft, he definitely didn't show that in preseason. So he kind of gave us some false hope.
Yeah, but back to the actual point of conversation here, though.
Right.
Paolo Banchero has been absolutely dominant as a rookie. This is the exact projection that people had for him coming into the league, and he has lived up to the hype on every single front.
Yeah, his team his play hasn't led to too many wins for his team, but he's looked like the first prospect that the Magic have drafted that's actually going to pan out. To be a star.
Franz Wagner from last season, he's definitely looking good too.
Well, yeah, okay, Franz is good, but Banchero is looking like a real superstar.
Well, I mean, it's just because you said it's gonna pan out, and it's like when you think of the expectations that Franz Wagner had coming in, like they weren't crazy. So I think he's already exceeding his expectations. He's been a consistent, good scorer. He's been one of the better playmakers on the team. So I think he's more than panned out, considering the expectations for him weren't very high.
You know what? That's fair. But just looking at the other guys that they've drafted, Suggs, not good. Jonathan Isaac, yes, injuries have basically derailed his career.
But
in the grand scheme of things, it didn't pan out. Cole Anthony, just a lot of guards that just did not pan out for this team.
Yeah, and I think they need to just stick to getting forwards. That's clearly their strong suit.
Yeah, they found basically their guard and their forward in Banchero because he basically runs the offense at this point.
Now that I'm looking at it, because Banchero has been playing the 3, Franz Wagner has actually been playing the 2 now. So I mean, they legitimately got another guard there too. They need to draft forwards who can be guards.
And it just to finish this conversation off about Rookie of the Year. The projections for the draft were to go Jabari, Chet, Banchero. And when Banchero got drafted first, I was kind of happy because I was all on the Smith train.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm jealous. I really am. Because Banchero looked bad in the preseason. And with the one game that Jabari played in the preseason, he looked elite. Now it's reversed in the regular season. Banchero looks elite already. Jabari is looking terrible. He's efficiency wise, he's terrible. He's by far the worst rookie so far.
Yeah, and because his efficiency is so bad, it's also making his point totals look bad because he's not hitting the shots he's putting up. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 in that case. And it's just, oh man, at least Jalen Green last year was still putting up point totals on bad efficiency. Jabari is putting up single digit points on 20% shooting every game.
Yeah, it's been multiple cases, like I stated before in a couple of the recent episodes, where he's only scored 4 points in a game, and to where I don't think Banchero's even scored under 10 and throughout his first couple of games.
Mm-mm. He's been well over double digits every game so far.
Yeah, so Clear favorite there. I think we could go ahead and move on to the next award, which is going to be the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Hmm.
And I have to say, I think this goes back to the MVP, who we predicted is in Giannis.
Yeah, and I 100% agree for the same reasons that we're giving him the MVP. Look at how successful this team is. They're the number one defense in the league, which is, it's kind of funny that they're the best team in the league, and they're only that high because they're the number one defense. Because I don't believe they're top five in offensive rating.
Hmm.
So for them to be the number one defense, with Giannis being the clear best defender all around, I mean, because Drew Holiday is definitely the best perimeter. Brook Lopez is probably the best rim protector. But Giannis is like the perfect mix of the two of those.
Right. And I would say Bam would have a pretty good shot at the award if the Heat
Hmm.
were doing better. But
Oh,
because they're
yeah,
doing
for
so
sure.
bad, I think that kind of knocks him out. I know this is an individual award too, so
Hmm.
that's another thing that factors into it. And for the first time, I think was it ever that a guard won a? No, it was not first
No,
time ever.
no, it wasn't
It
the
was in a
first time ever.
while. It was just in
Yeah,
a
it was like the
while.
first time since I want to say the 70s. I can't remember. All right, no, I'm tripping because Gary Payton was the last person to win it. That's what it was. So it was like since the 90s.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
somewhere around there.
Marcus Smart being the first guard to win it in a while. If I'm not looking strictly at big men, I would have to say maybe like OG Ananobi
Oh
being
yeah.
a guy that could win the award, but that's a pretty long shot.
And I think it also just has to do with the fact that his defensive contributions really go under the radar, just like how the Raptors as a team really go under the radar.
Right? Yeah, they're like a team. When you look at them, they're going to be good defensively, but when you actually play against them, it's pretty surprising how well they play together on defense, and
Hmm.
they're not a team that blows you away with like names on paper. Like you,
Right.
you look at their roster and there's not like, yeah, Pascal's like obviously the best player there, but
Hmm.
they're so much better than the names that are on that paper.
Yeah, because I mean, even Fred Van Vliet is a pretty sleeper pick of a good player. Like,
Mm,
like people who really know basketball know, okay, yeah, Fred Van Vliet is really good. But like, if you're not really into basketball or you're not from Canada, the name Fred Van Vliet probably goes right over your head.
hmm. Yeah, so I think we can go ahead and move to the next award, which is going to be the Sixth Man of the Year award. And who is your pick for that?
Now, this is going to be a very controversial pick for this award, but I
Hmm.
think it has to be stated that if things continue on their current trajectory, Russell Westbrook will be my sixth man of the year.
Okay, so this is where we finally disagree with each other. Uh, my Sixth Man of the Year award pick so far is going to be Colin Sexton. I know
Hmm.
he hasn't, he's not averaging obviously the points that he's averaged in Cleveland, but with the team success and him shooting one of the best 3-point percentages that he shot in his career, I think that's something to look at throughout the season if it continues. Like I said, with the team success and the efficiency that he's playing with, can he kind of lead that bench unit to continue to win these games?
Hmm. And
Uh,
I will absolutely give you the credit for that pick because Colin Sexton was my number two pick for the award, but
mm,
that's why I had to preface it by saying if things continue as they are, because obviously Westbrook hasn't been coming off the bench very long for right
mm,
now.
mm,
But the drastic shift in bench Westbrook versus starter Westbrook, it's unbelievable.
mm. I think Colin Sexton is still, basically a long shot, like I said, but there's some other guys out there that I could see winning it, like Christian Wood.
Hmm.
Someone who I think a lot of people projected would be sixth man of the year, and Jordan Poole is absolutely out of the race for me at this point.
Oh yeah, no, he's not lived up to that hype at all.
Now he got his money and said, well, and
He pulled a Minnesota Wiggins.
yeah, he's seen. I don't know if it's the whole team success because obviously the Warriors have been pretty bad this year.
hmm
If that's the whole reason why he's doing bad, I mean, obviously his bad play is contributing to their
Yeah,
losing, but other people on the team have also not been good. So it's a whole mix of things of why I don't think he's even in the race anymore at this point. I mean, there's not to say that he can't win himself back in,
hmm
but for me, he's not
but
even
yeah,
like top five
if
for me.
things continue as they are, yeah,
Right,
he's not in the top five. And
right, right, right.
to touch back on the Christian Wood point a little bit, I do want to say that he was somebody that I considered for the pick, but he had been injured and missed some games.
Mm-hmm,
And then on top of that, he did have a couple of just straight terrible games.
mm-hmm.
So I think that's why I didn't really have him in my mentionables. But yeah, I think if he can go back to having his like 20-ish, maybe a little bit under 20 points per game off the bench, then yeah, he's definitely in the running for that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think we can go ahead and move on to our last award in Most Improved.
Mm,
And who is your most improved player for this year?
now, color me biased and all, but I'm gonna have to say that if I wanted to be biased, my pick would be Shingun,
Mm-hmm.
just because what he's been doing as like he's pulling a Banchero where he was terrible in the preseason, in the regular season happened, and he just flipped a switch,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's a totally different player. But that's just I needed to put that out there because he is that good. If I'm being for real, we all know the real answer has to be Lowry Markkinen.
Okay, Larry Markkinen was honestly not who I expected you to say. I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say Shea.
You see, I've been hearing some talks about the Shea pick, and here's the thing: Shea has been this good for like the past. Like, he was definitely this good last season,
Mm-hmm.
and he was close to this level the season before. The only problem was just injuries and a little bit of consistency issues, probably because of the injuries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't really consider him to be in the running for most improved.
So because of the games, like I know you said, the inconsistency, right?
hmm
But how much are you factoring him not playing those games? Like in 2020 he missed quite a bit, but that was also the year of the what do you call it?
The bubble.
The bubble. Yes. Last year he missed close to about 25 games. How much is that like in consideration for you?
When I say like him missing games, like the way that I look at it is I don't think you can necessarily give somebody most improved because they played more games than they played the year before.
Mm,
And so that's part of my thing about like he was definitely on this level of talent last year,
mm,
but he just missed more games. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's still the beginning of the season. You never know what could happen. But assuming he misses, let's say, like 10 or less games, then I don't think I think it's unfair to the other people who actually made more significant leaps to give him the award just because he managed to stay on the court more.
mm.
But that's just my personal outlook on the award.
So I think Shea can win it. He's averaging 30 points right now, and
hmm
on really good efficiency, at least from field goal percentage wise.
hmm
And his team's actually doing a lot better than I think both of us expected. But the person that I have winning it right now is Tyrese Halliburton for me.
That's another good. That's a really good pick.
That shot is still pretty ugly.
But he's hitting it.
Yeah, but he's hitting it. He's averaging 20 points right now on good efficiency for both field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, and he's also averaging 10 assists.
Yeah, I was about to
So
say he has to be either leading the league or second in assists right now.
I don't know if he's leading. I could try to check that real quick. I believe he actually is in first.
The only person I could really see above him at the moment would be Chris Paul.
Man, I just saw it too. Okay, season stats. No, it's definitely not right. I think he is. I think he is in first, but
Okay.
10.3 assists with also mixing in that 20 points per game on good efficiency is good enough for him, at least in my opinion, to win that award.
Okay. And just for clarification, I just found that he is indeed leading in assists with
Okay.
10.3, whereas Chris Paul has 9.4. So he is leading by a pretty significant margin.
Mm-hmm. And, his team's not doing terrible either, 6-6 at the moment. I think that might also factor in because I also believe that we both thought that this Pacer team was going to be a lot worse than they're performing.
Yeah, gonna have to once again agree with you there that it's another team that's far outperforming expectations, and I think this is a good place to kind of bridge to our next gap, not
Okay.
next gap, but bridge to our next point, because Tyrese Halliburton was one of my picks for who I think is going to be a first-time All-Star this year.
Okay. And, I could agree with you there. I don't think there's actually too much we have to talk about there for what do you call it? For his reasons after, since we just went over it.
Mm-hmm.
Was there another player that, you wanted to kind of talk about getting into their first All-Star game?
You see, I really had about 4 picks here, but I'll go ahead and just pick my most improved player candidate
Mm-hmm.
in Lauri Markkanen. I think the way that he's been clearly the best player for the Jazz right now, it would be hard not to give him the number one. I mean, not it would be hard not to give him his first time All-Star selection
Mm-hmm.
because I mean they're the number 1 seed at the moment, and when he's the best player in that team, how do you not give him that award,
Mm-hmm.
that accolade, I should say?
Right. For me, for my pick, one of my picks, this is his first opportunity to get into an All-Star game because he's a rookie and it has to be Banchero.
That is a really good pick.
I definitely think that, the way he's been playing way above every single rookie that's been in this draft class. And, like I said before, his team's success isn't really there. But I think at least, for some of the people that have been in the All-Star game, a lot of it has been based on team success too. But I think at
Mm-hmm.
least for this pick here, you kind of have to throw team success out the window because based on his individual play, it's just too much to not look at.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every now and then there are players who get in with the exception of their team's success.
Mm,
So I think this is absolutely a case where I would be completely okay with that happening. At the end of the day, the All-Star game is supposed to be an individual accolade. So I feel like regardless of how a team is performing, if a guy is out there doing what he's doing what Devin Booker was doing for the Suns before Chris Paul got there, I think those guys should absolutely be rewarded with All-Star selections because they're not any worse just because their team is bad.
mm. And I'll go ahead and give my second pick too, and it's going to be Desmond Bain.
That's another really good pick.
The man is just lighting it up from three. And, I think he might have a good shot of being the second best player on the Grizzlies.
a good shot. That's not already a clear pick for you. I think it's
Well,
clear.
I mean, Jaren's there, so
Oh, you see, I'm not counting him since he's not playing right now. And then even then,
okay,
I feel like Desmond Bain has already surpassed him.
okay,
Just because I think while Jaren Jackson is absolutely an elite defensive player,
hmm
he still has not managed to resolve his foul trouble issue, which is something that really catapulted someone like Jared Allen into a higher defensive standing and a higher standing as a player because, he learned how to play better defense without fouling. And now he was rewarded with an all-star selection last year, but
mm.
Jackson hasn't managed to overcome that hurdle yet. So I think that's a pretty big knock on him for me, at least.
Every time we bring up the foul trouble for Jaren Jackson, it just reminds me of the whole series between the Grizzlies and Timberwolves and how bad that was with fouls.
It just, I feel like Cat and Jaren Jackson were in a race to see who could foul out first.
All right, they were trying to go for the record of most fouls combined in a series. But yeah, those are my two picks. Outside of that, I really haven't looked at anyone else to see, who else could fit into the criteria that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other picks?
In terms of first time guys, I think that's it for me. Anybody else that I'm really considering has already been there. And actually, sorry, Shea has not been an all-star before. So Shea is another pick, but we've already talked about him, so we don't need to go into detail there.
All right, well then, I guess on that note, we can go ahead and wrap up the episode. If that's all you wanted to talk about for today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. If you liked the episode, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Isaiah, any last comments?
Don't forget, share the podcast with as many people as you can.
All right, we will catch you next week on the next episode.